So I think that when people get divorced, they reflect back as time goes on and they realize all of the things that were wrong in the relationship. Because at first you're just devastated and you're sad, and maybe you don't even want the divorce. But then as time goes by, you start to say, the way he treated me at this point in my life, maybe it could be 20 years ago, just wasn't right. He didn't show me respect. This one time at a party, he embarrassed me. And you start to remember some of the bad stuff because I think at the beginning, it's so traumatic that you can't even really remember what was bad because all you're remembering is the good because you're so devastated by the breakup. So I want to dedicate today's episode to talk about signs of a destructive relationship. And there's two reasons I want to do this. One, to help you heal in your divorce and maybe see if some of these signs were something that happened to you that might help you in your healing. And the second thing is to prevent you in future relationships from letting people treat you like this. And if you see the destructive signs, maybe they'll be like red flags in your dating after divorce life. To talk about signs of a destructive relationship, I have a great guest. I'm so excited about this. Her name is Tracy Malone. Tracy is an author, a narcissistic abuse coach, and a speaker. She's the author of her book, Divorcing Your Narcissist. And Tracy, no, I'm sorry, I'm going to say that again. Divorcing your sorry, divorcing your narcissist, you can't make this shit up. Okay? Because I love that line. And so I didn't want to forget the subtitle. So Tracy, hi.
Hi there. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, thank you so much for agreeing to be on the podcast. And I am so excited to talk about this with you because you bring so much experience to the table. I want to tell my listeners that Tracy has been doing this work for about 8 years. She's a divorced mom. She was married to a narcissist. She then was in a long term relationship with another narcissist and then came out with her best selling book 2 years ago. So I think, Tracy, you have enough credibility way beyond to talk about this stuff. But do you agree with me that when people are going through a divorce, at first you're remembering all the good and you miss your ex. And then as time goes on, you start to remember these things that weren't so great. Do you agree?
Absolutely. I mean, as time passes, the hurt is at the beginning. And you're like, but I miss them. And you're holding on to that stuff. And then later on, you start to take off the rose-colored glasses a little bit and really go, I've come to think of it. He ruined my birthday every year or every Christmas or whatever it is. You start to get to the patterns. And I have a thing in my book called the first year of firsts. You have to get through that first Christmas. You have to you're going to get through these experiences, and then you can start dating and open up your heart to someone because you're going to be triggered at that holiday. You're going to be triggered at the kid's birthday or the first vacation without them and things like that. So you get through that, and then you have a road ahead of you to start dating in this funny, funny world we're in.
I love it. I love it. So let's get to the signs. So I want to tell my listeners, Tracy, when we were preparing for this podcast discussion, sent me a list of 9 signs of a destructive relationship. So I'm going to read these, Tracy, and then you can kind of explain and elaborate more on each one.
Okay.
So the first sign that the relationship might be destructive is that the person rushes into the relationship. And you're going to explain the difference between like someone who really, really loves you and wants to be in the relationship and really is just smitten and love bombing. So tell me about that.
So I think this is such a when people have been, and again, my clients are in abusive relationships. So when they've been in this, the love bombing stage, even if they've been married for 20 years, they're reflecting back to it. And, you know, love bombing is not just new love. New love is you want to spend time with them, you want to get to know them. It's exciting, it's fun. But love bombing is where they demand your time. They make you give up yoga because they can see you at that time. You know what? Let's not see your friends yet. Let's just keep us in our little love bubble. And it's this isolation, but it's very fast. And I have a friend of mine that was in one of my original support groups 8 years ago. And she went on a date recently and she was like she just reacted. The man opened her car door and she ran away screaming, "He's love bombing me." Ah! And we were all at dinner going, honey, that's not love bombing, that's manners. And I know you're used to
And
like,
that's awesome.
I know, but again, reactionary. Oh no, it's love bombing was what I really wanted to get across. It's not just being that new love. It's intense. It's over the top. It is faster. It is like boom, engaged in 6 months. 3 months. I had a girl the other day. They were married in 3 months, right? That's not normal, right? You
And
haven't had the first
it's
things.
such a fine line because when you're in this new love and you enjoy the attention and you're so excited and you're so in love, sometimes you don't see these destructive signs. It's hard to see it because you're just so in love and you want it to be genuine.
Mhm.
So, yes, very, very good thing to.
But also, I think trying to slow it down is a test for them. It's like, you know what? I can't miss yoga today. It's a special night. How about tomorrow? And if they get upset, well, we're seeing the signs in it. It's almost every single thing we're going to talk about is test them. If they get upset when you say, no, sorry, I can't tonight, it's yoga night, then that's a sign. That's a flag. That's not even a sign. That is a gigantic red flag that
Yes.
they're
I,
not.
I actually was just talking to a woman who she's dating this new guy and he's going really, really fast. And I said to her, look, I met the guy, I really, really like him. But just if you want to slow down, he should respect that. And if he doesn't, then it's not right. And if you lose him because you want to slow down, then that's totally fine. And you should be okay with that because then you're really doing what you just said, Tracy. You're giving the test.
Yeah. And it's
All right.
sad that
Oh,
we have
sorry.
to test, but at the same time, if we don't test and we just go, oh, it's new love. And trust me, I've been there. I've been there isolating all my friends. I just want to be with him. It's so wonderful. We see each other every day, waking moments. That's not normal. Slow and steady wins the race. You actually get to see how they are and you get to really learn to respect them. And if they respect you when you say slow down, they've earned a trust point for sure.
I love it. Okay. Sign number two of a destructive relationship: fragmented relationships in the past. They don't have friends. They don't have any history. Maybe they're not on social media, except they talk about their crazy exes. Tell me more about that.
Well, I like to tell my people, what's the difference between your crazy ex and my crazy ex? Because at least I know I had them, right? So what's the difference if you're sitting across the table and someone is asking you or saying, I have no friends, my crazy ex wouldn't let me, or so it's what the difference between their crazy ex and your crazy ex is. You ask them questions. Again, we don't get them off the hook. We dig deeper. We say, that must have been so hard. What did you learn?
Mhm.
Oh, well, I learned that she was a crazy blah, 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 blah. And they start ranting. That is not someone that is healed. That is someone with anger issues, right? For me, my crazy ex gave me the greatest lessons in my life. I didn't know I had to learn boundaries. I didn't know I had been abused my whole childhood and had childhood wounds that were made me vulnerable. I had so much. I didn't know what a narcissist was. I had so much to learn. And I'm not saying like they're saints for teaching me this. I'm saying that was the difference between the crazy ex. Yeah, I was crazy, but I'm not going to come out and go, you know what? That was them. Here's how I am the person that's here. I am healing because of this. That's what we want to see with someone and their crazy ex. But asking them about friends and they're like, yeah, I lost all my friends in the divorce. Okay, well, lots of people do. That must have been so hard. What did you do with your friends before that? Do you have high school friends? I mean, those you couldn't have surely lost those, right? Unless you never had them. What are their excuses? listen, pay attention, because the answers are in the more deep. If we just take their answer and go, oh, they lost all their friends. Okay, no problem. And you accept that as law, you are not, you're leaving too much on the table. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. One question I tell people to ask, and I asked this of someone, I said to the person, if I was in an elevator with your ex wife and asked her why you got divorced, what would she tell me? And
Mhm.
that's a very good way to find out. They might get all defensive and say, I don't know, she's crazy. She's whatever. Or they might say, she would say that I wasn't really present. I wasn't a good listener. And you know what? I wasn't. And I've really learned, and I'm so much better now. That's a great answer.
It's exactly what we're looking for. I love that question.
Mhm.
Yes.
You're listening to the Divorced Girl Smiling podcast. My name is Jackie Pilosoff, and I'm your host. Today, we are talking about signs of a destructive relationship. I'm here with my guest, Tracy Malone, an author, a narcissistic abuse coach, and the author of her book, best-selling book, Divorcing Your Narcissist. You Can't Make This Shit Up. We are going to take a short break. When we come back, we have we have 7 more signs of a destructive relationship. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Divorced Girl Smiling podcast. My name is Jackie Pilosoff, and I'm your host. Today, I'm here with narcissistic abuse coach Tracy Malone. Tracy is a coach, an author, a speaker, and her book is called Divorcing Your Narcissist. You Can't Make This Shit Up. Tracy, I loved saying that because it's so true. And here, now that we're on YouTube, I'm going to show my pin that when I met Tracy at a conference, I picked up this pin and I have left it on my desk. And everyone who walks by is like, that is so funny. So true. All right, let's move on to the third sign of a destructive relationship. No empathy. So, how can you tell if somebody doesn't have empathy?
Well, again, we dig deeper. And I had a conversation with someone from my past just in the last week, and I told him a pretty intense thing that happened. And he said, well, I don't really know anything about that, but this is what's happening with me. Like he could not hear what I had just said. And, he has this inability to listen, right? He interrupts frequently, changes the subject right back to him, right? Shows very little interest in what you have to say. It's a lack of compassion for you. Whatever your struggle is, if someone has no empathy, they're not showing, like this example. It's like, oh, okay, well, I don't care about that, but here's what happened to me, right? It's deflecting back to them, right? Lack of remorse or unable to apologize is another sign of no empathy, right? And so also the self-centered behavior. I liked my example where they're going back to, oh, that's interesting, but here's my story.
All right. Now, Tracy, can I just interrupt and make one exception for the no empathy?
Sure.
Sometimes I think, like on a first date, people are really nervous. So
Mm-hmm.
they can talk about themselves and appear like they don't care because they're just so nervous. They want to get it all out. They want you to know about them. They don't really know what they're doing. They haven't dated in 20 years, whatever. I think if that happens and you like the guy, it's okay to say, I like you, but you really didn't let me get a word in. I didn't really feel like you cared about what I had to say because I think they deserve one chance to stop being that way. Do you agree? Have you ever heard of stuff like that?
Yeah, for sure. Again, it's to whatever degree. It doesn't have to be just the first date. You're watching every date. You're paying attention, right? That first date, as you said, certainly there's going to be nerves. Just try to get in their stuff. They might have not dated in 30 years, right? So understandable. But it's continuing on. It's not just on that first date. It is through the relationship. And you've been dating for months and you're sick or your car broke down. Are they calling you up and going, hey, I know you've got to go shopping this weekend. Can I take you? I know your car's broken, right? Instead of, oh, your car's broken. Well, can you take an Uber over here?
No, how about, oh, your car's broken? That happened to me like a year ago and it really sucks.
Exactly.
Okay, I don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to number 4, liars. How do you know someone's lying? Do you call them on it?
Well, for sure, you want to call them on it, or else they're again, my audience is married or dealing with narcissists, so they're liars by birth, and so you have to pay attention to the factoids that they're saying, and you have to not be afraid. This is part of you know new dating 101, not to be afraid to speak up and not to be shy and go, that's weird. They said he had 3 children last week, and now he's saying he has 2. Call him on it. Be like, hey, that's funny. I thought you said you had only 2 children or you had 3, Oh yeah, I might have said that. Again, I'm using a stupid example, but
Yes.
really,
No, but you're right.
yeah.
Because once they lie, it's hard to trust about anything else. I was thinking more along the lines of, "Oh, you said you were out of town last weekend. Now you're saying that you were you
Right.
had a meeting. Why'd you lie? Are you lying to me?" Like, I think people who are divorced in your next relationship have to be willing to have that uncomfortable conversation because it's not easy to say to somebody, "Look, I know you're lying."
Mhm.
That's very uncomfortable, but
Well, you also
you're
don't have to say, I know you're lying. You can sit there and say, that's funny. You said last week you were going away, and now I just found you in our bar or whatever it was, right? It's calling them on it without going, you're a liar. Because if someone says you're a liar, you're going to react, right? But if you are coming into it from the perspective of, these are not adding up, give me an explanation. And we
right.
listen and we pay attention and we keep track. Like there should be a dating journal that just says, I went on the date with this guy, kind of like your book, and here's what happened. You remember it so that when you get to the next level, you're going, this is the 3rd time he's lied to me about this. I'm not taking it anymore. Right. If we don't pay attention to the incidences of these offenses, they'll start to pile up and we won't notice because we become immune to them. Oh, that's just them. They lie all the time.
And you deserve better than that. You
Mhm.
deserve to be with a not liar.
Yes.
And, if you have to be alone again for a little bit before you meet someone else, it's gonna be worth it. I think people are very afraid to be alone after divorce. And so they settle. They say, this is the best I'm gonna get. I'll put up with it. You
That's
don't have to. You're not trying to have children anymore, or maybe even you are, but I say love yourself enough where you realize you deserve better and you're willing to hold out for it. Moving on to the next one, which is no boundaries. So, a big destructive relationship quality is that they have no boundaries. Tell me about that.
Well, sometimes they have no boundaries. Sometimes abusers have a lot of boundaries, but you're not allowed to set them. Right. So if you say, this is my boundary or this is a request and they don't honor it, that's what we're looking for. And I tell people, first date, we can set so many boundaries. And I have this little dating story. It's like, that you've been like texting them for weeks and you're like so excited you're going to meet them at the bar and have a drink. You walk in and you go, I'm so excited to be here, but I forgot I only have 2 hours. I've got to get somewhere. So let's make the best of it. And then as the 2 hours comes along, if they go, come on, just have another drink. We're having so much fun. Can't you stay for a little while longer? They are not boundary listeners, right? If somebody is consistently texting you and you're like, God, and again, it might be new love, and you're like, we texted all night. I mean, there's certainly that. But if you don't like texts at 11 o'clock at night and you say, you know what, I really think, texting after 9 is not appropriate till we get to know each other a little more, and then they break it, they are not boundary listeners. So you pay attention, and the only way to pay attention is just test them, as we said on question 1. Test them and say, this is my boundary. I've got to be out of here in 2 hours. See how they react. And if they should say, we've had such a great time. I'm sorry you have to leave, but I understand. Can we do it another night? Then you've got someone that is honorable and listens to boundaries.
Okay, I love this next one. So, next sign of a destructive relationship is the person is always playing the victim.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about that.
Well, again, I think this goes back to the crazy ex, right? This goes back to the lying, and everything in their life is victim, 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 victim. And I can say everything in my life, I wrote a damn book about it, was victim, 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 right? And I actually went on 3 dates and I sounded like a victim. I was like, whoa, this is what happened, right? But there, it's always their crazy ex. It's always someone else, right? So you're checking to see if they've got accountability in that relationship, if they've got, like we discussed in the other question. Yes, but it's not just, they're late for dinner. It's because their boss kept them late. Every single thing, it's not just that first date. It's always my children made me late, or, I have to cancel because, and
Blame someone else
blaming.
instead of saying, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I should have planned better. I'm really sorry about this."
Exactly. So it's about accountability and blame, right? If it's always someone else's fault and they're the victim, I don't care who they are. That's not
All
the
right,
way.
now another thing I'm thinking of, another example of this is like, "Oh, my ex makes it really difficult for me to see the kids. She's turning them against me." Now that might actually be true, but Tracy, I know what you're gonna say. Tell me if I'm right. You have to ask, "Oh, well, tell me more.
Mhm,
Why?"
mhm,
"Oh, she says I drink too much." "Well, do you?" And
mhm.
then maybe he's saying this as he's ordering his 4th beer during dinner.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It's a perfect example. And it's a perfect like way that you can see and test, right? Um, Again, asking more. Well, why does she say that? That must be so hard. Add a little empathy to it. That must be so hard to hear that, she's accusing you of drinking too much. Did you drink during the marriage? Um, you know, just try to get more information, because letting them take the flag of I'm a victim and going, oh, poor them. I remember my last narcissist, I came over one night and he was at the computer screen crying. I didn't know crying was manipulation at the time. I was like, oh, you poor thing. And he's got this email open from his ex-wife that is calling him a narcissist. And he's crying. He's like, I'm not a narcissist, am I? And I was like, I didn't know what it was at the time until he had further abused me, 4 months later. I didn't know. And I was like, no, sweetie, you love your children. You would never do anything to hurt them. He was
Wow.
testing me. Again,
Right.
victim, oh, poor me, but also test was we woven into that. Does she know? Will she see the signs that my ex-wife is accusing me of? I didn't. And therefore it went on for too long.
Wow. Okay, getting down to the wire, another sign of a destructive relationship is that the person isolates you from your family and friends. Now, this makes me sick because I think they do it really subtly. Like, how does somebody isolate someone? It's very subtle.
It can be subtle or it can be very abrupt. I've had a lot of clients where, as an example, their children marry a narcissist, and sorry, you're not allowed to talk to your mom anymore. Sorry, grandma can't see the children. We're blocking them. It could be very direct. It could be very, very much no. You're out of our life and that sort of thing. Or it could be very subtle. It's always subtle in the beginning, right? It's that love bombing, that need for no, it's just you and I. Let's not see your friends yet, and let's not do things with your family, and they start to take away the stuff. So the isolation of friends and family really ties into that love bombing initial. Well, it's just for you and me. It's our time, and not include other people. But later on, it could certainly just 80% of my clients are, I wasn't allowed to be with my friends, or they made it so miserable when I was with my friends and family, that I just said it's just not worth it. And I stopped going out with them.
That is so sad.
Mm.
Okay, next one is control and manipulation. So tell me what that looks like in a destructive relationship.
With a
Okay,
purpose.
Tracy, after I asked you that question, you froze and I didn't hear anything. So start
Okay.
over.
Okay. So control and manipulation is starts off with guilt tripping and making you feel bad for things. And gaslighting, which is the mental abuse to confuse you and make you think that something happened that didn't, or what you saw didn't really happen. Uh, Controlling your actions and thoughts is really their goal. So, by sort of making you doubt your own perceptions in a gaslighting scenario, they're controlling you. Manipulation. Isolation, we kind of talked about. Financial control is another way of manipulation, right? Where they are controlling the money. If you're married to them, they're required that you're becoming financially dependent. That is also part of manipulation. Threats, intimidation, fear tactics. Again, but that's what they do. Again, if you leave me, no one will ever love you, kind of fear and strategies, manipulation. And then really couldn't do anything wrong. And then it starts off where you put the knife in the wrong slot on the dishwasher. Why do you always have to do blank? And you always do this. And it starts to be where they're undermining, making you feel bad because you put the knife in the wrong thing and you can't do anything right. They're demeaning you. That's what the manipulation and control can really look like, where they're controlling your time, your thoughts, your energy, and it all has to circle around them.
And you might not even realize it's happening.
Mhm.
So I think this is such a great podcast because people might think, oh, that's what my marriage was like. Or, maybe I'm in this relationship and I knew that it had some red flags. And now Jackie and Tracy are kind of spelling it out for me. So sometimes you need to hear stuff like this and it makes you really think. All right. Last one is lack of trust. So this goes both ways. Like maybe you don't trust them, maybe they don't trust you. Tell me about that.
It's certainly goes both ways, right? You could just feel unsafe around them, and therefore there's a lack of trust in there, right? If they don't honor your boundaries, again, we go back to the date on date one, they're not honoring your boundaries. How can you trust somebody that's not going to hear you? If they don't keep their word, that's accountability. Like last guy that I was with, I'd make these amazing dinners, be here at 7, and he'd show up at 8:30. That's not keeping their word. That's not being responsible. That's not even calling. Not being reliable ties into that as well. And having integrity to go, gosh, Tracy, I know you made this amazing dinner. I'm going to be really late. Just explaining it, having the integrity, the accountability to say, this is my fault. I'm sorry. Um, and if you ask questions, they get upset with you. How can you trust someone? If they're constantly attacking you, if you go, hey, what you just did, or that really bothered me when you did that, well, that's your stuff, you're not mine, that kind of attacking thing. We've all seen it. Of course, no accountability, and the blamers, and always having excuses. It's someone else's fault. So you can't trust with those factors. There's a million factors, right? Reliability, accountability, keeping your secrets, all of those things make something be safe to trust someone.
Okay, I have a great example for this. I know this woman, and she has been married to this man who's like an entrepreneur and keeps starting these businesses. And he keeps using their family money to start these businesses. So finally, after like 5 or 6 businesses, I don't know how much money it was, but she's kind of like, you know what? Like, maybe we need to take a break from this and maybe you should go back to work because, we've used so much of our money. And he's like, you don't believe in me. I can't believe you're not supporting me. You don't even believe in me. Well, they have like young kids. They need the money. And this guy is so narcissistic that he keeps like manipulating her to think that she's doing something wrong, not to ask him to go back to work and to not start another business and use another $30,000 of their money or something like that.
Absolutely. And that's someone you can't trust, right? To sit there, blame you. You don't trust me. That's a blame. You don't trust that I can do this. Well, after 6 times, there's no
Yeah. You
evidence of
don't
that.
believe in me.
Yeah,
This
exactly.
is a great time to tell my listeners, Tracy put a note here that she would really like to end with how people can judge by how the person makes them feel. So all of these things that we're talking about, Tracy, isn't it all about how the person makes you feel? What are the feelings that are not so good and what are the feelings that are good?
Absolutely. I think if I had ever done these things, I would have gotten out of my relationships a lot sooner, right? But you're asking yourself, does this person renew my energy or deplete it? Right. First thing, do you feel confused about the relationship? Well, that was weird. They said this, any confusion is not normal. Um, Feeling unsafe, feeling unheard. Again, you're at that dinner table and every conversation goes back to them. You don't feel like you got heard. Is the relationship mutual or, equal? I have a thing I do in my groups where I go, how much did you do in the relationship versus them? And, they're always off the chart, and that the abuser was always 10%, if that. So equality and just being, we're in this together, you do this, I do this, we agree, and we do it without complaining. And so do they encourage your personal growth, your friendships, or do they get angry about those things, right? Do we share the same values and respect and honor each other? Um, do they take care of you when you're sick or sad? Again, being there for you is that feeling of, gosh, I've got this person in my life, but no, they're not here for me, right? Um, and how does your body feel? Do you feel at peace? Do you feel anxiety? Right? That's the key. You'll feel it. It'd be like, there's love, new love anxiety, but then there's anxiety of, well, that was weird. I didn't like what they said there, but if I say anything, he'll get mad, so I'll keep my voice down, right? Those are things you got to know. Asking yourself, am I ignoring red flags? Like, am I keeping track of this? Have they shown me without question that I can trust them? And, is their behavior consistent? Or do you get like Jekyll and Hyde? One day Jekyll showing up and the other one you're like, who is that guy? Oh, the other one will be back
That's
tomorrow.
the
You're not
worst.
standing for that.
Yes, that's the worst.
Yes. And then just, if you're afraid to speak up, or you feel unheard, blamed, unloved, manipulated, or controlled, all the things we just said, those are feelings as well as actions, right? Tap into them and go, I am not feeling absolute love like I did those first few months. Those
Oh,
are,
Tracy, this has been so wonderful. Thank you so much for being here and talking about this. I want, though, to end on a positive note because I feel like Tracy and I have just listed all these terrible things. But let's just, we've completely run out of time, but I want to just talk about like if a person makes you feel loved and secure and happy. I just want to turn it around so we can end on a positive note. And you feel like you trust them. And a lot of things are about you. Like Tracy said, it's equal. And I always tell people in the Divorce Girl Smiling free consult, which I offer, by the way, you can go to my site and sign up for it, and I'll talk to you for, 30 minutes or so. You can tell me your story. I'll make suggestions, connect you with really good divorce professionals. But I always say to people when they say, I don't know if I should get divorced. I don't know what I'm doing. I say, what is he bringing to the table? What is he bringing to the table and what is he not bringing to the table? Make a list and then it helps you decide. Because if he's bringing to the table that he makes you feel loved and secure in a healthy way, not a love bombing, manipulative way, but your gut knows what's healthy and what isn't. And that's what I want for everybody listening to this. You deserve to be loved in a really healthy way. I'll give you the last word, Tracy.
I want to give them hope too, um, we have to be more careful and we have to protect ourselves, but there's a lot of good people out there and you'll find one. Don't settle is the other important thing. So many of my friends are like, well, they're good enough at my age that, there's not that many choices. So I'll settle for an abuser who's already cheated on you twice. No settling, guys. That's not,
Right.
yeah.
And that's what we were saying. People are just they have no self-confidence. I find it like over 50. And They just feel like, well, I don't want to be alone. Guess what? It's so much better to be alone. You'll be so much happier in the long run. And then you have the chance to meet somebody better. If you're with this other guy, you're never going to meet anyone because you're with him.
Mhm. Exactly, exactly.
Well, again, Tracy, thank you so much for being on the show. I want to tell my listeners if you want to find Tracy or work with her or get her book, you can find her at narcissistabusesupport.com. And if you want to find trusted, vetted divorce professionals, listen to more podcasts, download my mobile app, read articles, or sign up for the free consult, you can find me at divorcedgirlsmiling.com. Thank you so much for listening, everyone, and we'll talk to you real soon.